Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. So we're going to go ahead and get started. As mentioned in our email invitation, this topic was so popular that we decided to host a second round to make sure that everyone who wanted to attend would be able to. We're really excited that you're all here with us today. So for those of you who are joining us for the first time, welcome. And for those of you who are back for another guide talk or attended our first session on virtual events, welcome back. And we hope you enjoy the new format of the session. My name is Tweeby, and I am head of marketing at Guidebook. I've been with the company for over 5 years and previously worked in the finance and hospitality industries where I was responsible for a lot of events that my previous companies had. So the pain points that you have dealt with when planning events are things that I've definitely experienced myself. My network is filled with professionals who have had to shift their format of their events from in-person to virtual. So this is a topic that I'm really familiar with. I'm really looking forward to today's webinar, and I hope that you're able to walk away with key takeaways and ideas for what you can do for your event, as well as see firsthand how Guidebook can enhance your virtual event. Joining me today are my colleagues Jack, Guidebook's Manager of Client Success and Growth, Stuart, our Director of Global Revenue, and Mackenzie, our Senior Account Manager. I'll quickly turn this over to them so they can introduce themselves.
Hey guys, I'm Jack. I'm going to introduce myself fully later when I start the demo, so I'll hand it over to Stuart for his intro.
Thanks, Jack. Yeah, as Tweeby said, I am Guidebooks Director of Global Revenue. I've been at the company for 5 years, actually 5 years on Sunday. I am based in our London office normally, currently working from home, and I manage our sales team across 4 different offices around the world, San Francisco, North Carolina, London, and Seoul. And I also manage a small number of our larger corporate accounts. So companies such as Johnson & Johnson, BAE Systems, Novartis, and a couple of others. So yeah, looking forward to taking part in the Q&A section at the end of the meeting.
Hey everyone, it's great to virtually meet all of you. My name is Mackenzie. I'm a Senior Account Manager here at Guidebook. I work out of our Raleigh, North Carolina office. I manage a handful of our enterprise clients based in the US, and I help them deploy, measure, and scale their mobile usage across various departments as well as verticals. And not to mention specifically for this guide talk, I'm currently working with a lot of clients helping them pivot from virtual to in-person, and I'm looking forward to participating in the live Q&A today.
Thanks, Mackenzie. Okay, so today's guide talk is going to be split into 3 sections. I'll first go over some general information about virtual events and then discuss why mobile apps can make your virtual events better with some screenshot examples. And then Jack will leave the interactive demo to show you some elements of the Guidebook platform. And then after that, we'll close with a Q&A hosted by Jack, Stuart, and Mackenzie. If you have any questions during this webinar, please use the chat feature located at the bottom of the screen. We're going to be compiling your questions and responding to them during the Q&A section. But before we actually begin with the presentation, we're going to kick things off with a live poll. So if you have not downloaded the Guidebook app yet, please do so at this time. The slide that is going to be pulled up now is going to be the passphrase, just in case anybody needs it one more time. And then just in case you did not see the instructions earlier, to download the app, just go to the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store to download the Guidebook app, and then use the passphrase that's on the screen now to download the guide for today's webinar. I'm going to wait about a minute just to make sure everyone is ready, and then we'll get started. Okay, everyone, so let's go ahead and get started. So once you're in the guide, tap on the menu icon in the top left corner. It's the three horizontal lines, and then tap on the GuideTalk live poll shortcut. So where Jack is going right now on his screen, so top left, and then click on GuideTalk live poll, and then you'll find virtual events and you, and just tap on that to open up the live poll to participate. All right, I'm going to go ahead and pass this over to Jack to lead the Q&A.
Okay, guys. Hey. So yeah, if you have all opened the live poll, you should be able to vote. So voting is now open, and I can see your votes coming in. So lots of you, as we can see on the screen here, have used Guidebook before, which is great. And to the 20-ish%, I hope you're thinking about using Guidebook in the future, and I hope that this session will help you in making that decision. So if we can go to the next question, I think we're done on this one. So this is 2 of 3, just so you know. We're just doing 3 questions. So before COVID-19, had you ever organized a virtual event? Great, so this poll will always show live results. I have a colleague running the back end and activating the votes, and then this screen is purely the results that you can see. And as you can see, they are coming in live. So you can have as many questions as you like, and you can just cycle through each question as you're ready. And you know, obviously you're all seeing, or all those who are voting are seeing the front end for the user. So about the same split as before, but more percentage on no. So it's great to hear that some of you have organized a virtual event before. And to those who haven't, hopefully, again, we can give you some advice on how to use mobile for those virtual events. Okay, let's skip to question number 3. So for how long do you expect to run virtual events? So 3 options this time. I think this is a good stab in the dark for everyone. I guess it's a big unknown for us all to know how long we'll be practicing social distancing and staying at home. But the rest of 2020, I think I agree with that one, with the majority there. So we all do need to think about virtual events and catering to that environment. So great, thanks a lot, guys. That can concludes the live poll. I'm going to hand back over to Tweevy to go through some slides, and I'll be back with the demo.
Thank you, Jack. All right. So these the questions are just up on the screen. We'll get to the slides in a second. All right. So as all of you know, in light of what's happening in the world today, we've seen some of the largest conferences and events in the world get canceled, postponed, or reformatted to virtual. And while this shift is much more noticeable now, virtual events have been around for years, and there are platforms available, including Guidebook, that enhance the virtual event experience for attendees. And so on the screen are just 3 quick reasons as to why virtual events are valuable alternatives to large and small events. First, they're a safe way to connect with your audience given the current global pandemic. Second, they enable hosts to reach a wider audience than physical events and come with that may potentially come with timing issues or barriers to entry costs. And then last, virtual events help organizations save money on many events related expenses that are no longer necessary. So while it might be considered illegal to have large meetings in many places during this time, this doesn't mean that events are completely out of the question. One thing to note, however, is that virtual events do require different strategies, but they also come with big advantages, especially when paired with a mobile app. And so here are some of the reasons why a mobile app is the perfect tech pairing for your virtual event. In the next few slides, we're going to go over them in more detail. So we're going to actually skip over this slide a little bit, but don't worry about that. So the first reason, a mobile app is a perfect place for you to house all of your information in one central location. Compiling all of this into a mobile app where attendees can access information before, during, and after the event makes it easy for both organizers and attendees. On the organizer side, providing all of this information in one spot makes it easier for you to track what you've already shared, what you still need to share, and there's also no need for you to worry about whether or not someone can't find the information because it might have gotten lost in an email. Everything is in your app. And then similarly on the attendee side, it's just much easier for them to find information that you've provided without worrying about where to look. A mobile app makes this all possible. You just have to load in all of your documents and information ahead of the virtual event, and then attendees will be able to, flip through the materials or flip through the mobile app as they watch the meeting. On the screen here, you'll see a few screenshots on how you can make your app the central place for information. The very first screenshot is the schedule. It's obviously just a screenshot, so you can't click on it, but you can see that there are different tracks for people. In the second screenshot, it's just a brief description where you can see that it links to the speakers, any web pages, and then the survey, and then the last one is just a list of speakers. But truthfully, you can house whatever information that you want in your mobile app. Quick tip for you, make sure that presentation slides or videos are viewable by your audience, which means you'll need to optimize your content for smaller computer screens rather than large displays. Next one. Mobile apps empower networking capabilities so that attendees will get more than just information in their experience and can broaden their professional horizons. So unlike an in-person event where people can miss each other or sessions, housing most of your audience engagement in your mobile app will enable your audience to get more from your event and from each other. Social media is huge for virtual events. You can do things like encourage attendees to tweet out their takeaways or snap selfies of themselves enjoying speaker sessions virtually. And as much as it is valuable feedback for you, it also keeps your attendees engaged and active participants. In the demo app that you have today, you're actually going to be able to add your own photos, add in your own posts. You can like other people's posts. So I encourage you to take a look at that on the demo guide and just kind of play around with it. The next reason is maintaining audience attendance can be difficult during a virtual event. So I'm sure many of you have faced this challenge before, because I certainly have, but working from home and tuning in has its own set of challenges because there are just so many distractions. So as an organizer, you're battling against more elements than you would with a dedicated live audience, which is why it's so important to make sure that you're using a tool such as a mobile app like Guidebook to help captivate your audience online. Mobile apps can help you with creating an engaging experience that is more interactive and fun for your audience. So for example, live polls or surveys, or even virtual QR scavenger hunts. On this, oops, sorry, can you go back 1 second? On the screen, you'll see that there's a conference evaluation and then the GuideTalk live poll that we did today. And I know we just went through a really quick, poll earlier, but you can make it as long as you, obviously not too long, but you can make it longer. You can change the format of the questions, but just basically use the mobile app as a way to engage with your audience versus just having them listen the entire time. And then the last reason, and we've been getting this question a lot, is can a mobile app help me with sponsorship or exhibitor packages? And the answer to that is definitely. So compared to a show where foot traffic is unpredictable, virtual sponsorships are much more targeted in terms of audience, and you can create specific opportunities for exhibitors and sponsors to connect with attendees while also retaining their own ROI from your audience. An example here is a screenshot with the sponsored post, and then also push notifications. You can send very targeted messages here. A mobile app also helps you share key metrics with your sponsors. So from how many times someone viewed a sponsorship or exhibitor listing to how many times someone clicked on a banner ad, these are all things that can be reported to your sponsors and exhibitors, which makes it much easier for them to gauge performance and determine how much return they've received from your event. The mobile app metrics are a great way for organizers to gather data about what content is resonating with their attendees, and just keep an eye out on things that can be improved or things that should be removed or kept for the following year. So this was just a quick high-level run through of a few of the ways that mobile can make your virtual event a success, but Jack will go into this in more detail. So I'll switch over to him now for the demo.
Hey guys, Jack back here. Hope have you found that intuitive and informative? I'm going to run through a demo now of the guide that you're all using. So you can click along with me through that guide. So just to introduce myself fully, my name is Jack. I'm the Manager of Client Success and Growth here at Guidebook. It's great to meet you all, albeit virtually. I've worked at Guidebook for just under 3 years, and in that time worked with many clients to support lots of different events and use cases. I hope that I can share some insight today into our platform and how you can use Guidebook for virtual events and sharing information with users who are remote and not physically at a location for your event. Guidebook has been leveraged for virtual users before the pandemic, so we believe that we're pretty well versed in creating apps for events where some or all of the users access the content when they, again, are not actually physically in the location. I'm going to do my best to cover the main features that we believe will help you and your teams to share information around your events, and also create a community for your attendees around the globe. When thinking about virtual, you need to put yourselves in the shoes of your attendees more than ever to provide content that is engaging, and also use platforms that allow them to network and feel like a part of your event, even though they can't be there in person. I hope that I cover things that help you and also provide ideas for your events coming up. For those of you who've used Guidebook before, you'll see me using our normal suite of features, but hopefully slightly differently for virtual. And those of you who haven't used us before, hopefully this is new to you and you're nice and interested in Guidebook. I won't be able to go through everything. So if you have questions on specific features that I go through, please send them in to the chat and we'll hopefully get to them at the end. And of course, if you want to follow up with a more personal demo that is specific about your event, then we can sort those out at the end and we'll share an email address for you to reach out to where we can set up that demo afterwards. Cool, so I'm done with my introduction now. I'm going to get started on the demo. I'm actually going to start with what we call our cover page. So this is based as a promotional piece for you to send a personalized URL to your users to help them download your guide. It also does have a snapshot of features that you choose, so you can share them on a laptop screen or a computer screen with your users. This is more and more important during virtual because we expect users to use their computers for virtual events as well as their mobile phone. You know, if they're joining speaker sessions, they're probably going to watch on a larger screen. So there are ways that you can use Guidebook on the web. So just to run through this cover page very quickly, this link will send me to the Zoom meeting that we're using now. So a nice way for you to just click on that and join via your laptop. There's also links. If I click this one, it brings me to the bottom of the page, and then I can download the Guidebook app or your own app directly from the store that suits my device. Just going back up to the top, you would have seen a couple of different features here selected. So we've popped in the schedule. And as you can see here, it knows who I am. So I've added the GuideTalk virtual events into my schedule. And I can even click into this event and see some more details. And again, visit the URL link and also view PDFs once they're uploaded. So the experience here for users on the web is still good. And they can use this alongside their mobile app for a nice personal experience. Again, these features I'm going to go through on the mobile side, but just to highlight, you can show speakers here, you can show and highlight your sponsors and also other list items. This is completely customizable by you, and the page is auto created, so you don't need to worry about building this page on the web. It's all auto created from the content that you make in Builder in the back end. Cool, so that's my intro to cover pages. I'm going to jump over to Builder. So this is our backend platform, which a lot of you would have seen before if you've used Guidebook. For those of you who haven't, this is our app builder. So you create everything in here and it mirrors in the front end. I am primarily going to focus on the front end today, so you can see what your users will see, but I'll try and include Builder where I can. So to start with, I'm going to open one of the main features that you'll always use, which is the schedule. So for virtual events, you're still going to have a schedule and different things going on throughout your time running the event. And what we're seeing with virtual events is that they'll probably run for a longer period of time rather than a shorter period of time, because the sessions are more spread out. So you can run them, say, for a week or for a couple of days, and you can see the items here with the dots throughout the schedule. I'm on today's date, and as you can see at the top, I've got the GuideTalk virtual events added to my diary. If I open that, as you did earlier, you can see that I set up a 15-minute reminder for this event so that I get a ping onto my mobile device just before it starts. And also in here, I can see some information about the session. I can link to my Zoom link in here. I've added the live poll, which you all took part in, or some of you took part in. And also I've linked a survey. You can link other things in here, such as PDFs, slides that you want to share after the event, and also web links. So these can be built up as you run through the event, and you can share things after if you don't want to share the slides before. These, and these can also be linked to people. So for example, if I come out of the schedule, you can link them to a speaker. So if I click on Brian at the top here, you can see that Brian is talking at a business roundtable and best marketing events of 2020. So all the things that you create in your lists and in your schedules can be linked together. So it's nice and easy for your users to find things that are linked together. And say they want to join some sessions or watch some sessions that are done by Brian, they can just find them in isolation, or the other way around. They can see who is talking at a session after clicking on the session that way. Just to say, any web links that you put in or any PDFs, they open up within the app. Your PDFs can be saved natively, so you don't need an internet connection to access those. And a web link will open in an iframe. So that opens up within the app. So it seems like a really seamless experience for your user. You're not popping from the Guidebook app or your own branded app to the browser on your device. It's all contained in one app. In terms of other information, there's obviously lots that you will want to share around your event. And this is completely customizable. So just so you know, all of these items in the menu can be called whatever you like. You don't have to, for example, have a list called speakers. You could call that whatever you want to. Just to go through a couple of our examples, we have a sponsor page here. And of course, this is important for events where sponsors can't have a presence potentially, that they still have access to be able to share their information. So we've tiered our sponsors in here. So for example, we've chosen Amazon just as an example to be our platinum sponsor. In here, you can see information about Amazon. You can hyperlink in the text. You could link directly to some slides that they want to share. You could link even to a Hangout or a Zoom link that Amazon are hosting that people can join voluntarily to talk to Amazon representatives. On top of those list items that we have in here, for sponsors, you can have, as you may have seen at the bottom, rolling banner ads. And these can link to a website of your choosing. So I can actually actively click on one of those and open a website. So another way for you to highlight sponsors is by those banner ads. On top of that, we have also had a sponsor highlight here. So we've chosen Google for this on top of Amazon. So they are just their own menu item, nice and present at the top of the menu for you to see. So just touching on sponsors there, obviously it can be important, not for all events, but for some. And this could be broken down into a different way. This could be pre-work. So you could have an important piece of pre-work put in instead of this Google sponsor. You could have anything that's important that you need attendees to do before the event as highlighted in here. So those pieces of information you can customize to tailor to your event exactly. You don't need to follow a strict set of rules. This is completely customizable for you. Just to hop back into the session, I just wanted to highlight one other thing here, that in terms of networking around sessions, I can click on the discussion. And as you can see, I tagged this session, and I also tagged Stuart and Mackenzie as speakers. So this discussion is isolated from the Interact feed, which I'm going to jump onto in a second. So this is an isolation of people talking about this session. So you can, as a user, you can see people who are tagging this session or talking about this. And then on top of that, you can like and comment on those comments. So a nice way for you to have your users talking about specific things and being able to find content and discussion that they want to very easily without having to scroll through the whole of the social feed. So a nice segue there into our networking section. Of course, it's vital that you share the information that you need to, and that can be done through the schedule and the list items that I just went through. But creating a community and making sure your attendees can still network and meet people is more important than ever now, because they can't do it in person. There are many ways that you can do that with Guidebook, and I'm going to start with the interact feed. So again, something that you can rename and call whatever you like. That could be forum page or chat wall, and it does perform much like a social wall. So in here you can tag events, like I said, and you can make comments. We can see Ezra's said something 38 seconds ago. You can also check in and make other attendees know that you're here. So I'm just going to do that now. So now people know that I am available. You can post photos, as we see here. And just scrolling through this is where you can really see interaction and who is attending and creating a community. So you see lots of comments on here. Also, on top of that, you'll see notifications going in here that you and your team send. So another nice way of seeing one-way communication from you guys. And again, in the interact feed, you can see sponsored posts. So just another way for you to highlight sponsors is with these sponsored posts. A nice, it kind of sinks in quite quietly. It doesn't seem like too much spam in terms of the sponsors. So it's a nice way for you to just highlight those if you do have those sponsors that are important to your events. When I post in here, it's very simple. I just can click write something. I can use the tools at the bottom to tag a person. I can upload a photo in here and I can tag my event. So that's very intuitive and easy for your users to do. By using the interact feed, and something I think is really important, you can extend the period of time that your event runs for. And around virtual events, I said it earlier, your event may have been one day, but you now want to extend it. The interact feed is a great way for you to do that because it's content that's ever changing. You can start the engagement with your users 2 weeks, 4 weeks before your event, which means that you are creating that community, you're sharing information. Hopefully people will keep coming back into the app to see that content changing, and you're extending the period that they can browse information rather than keeping it finite around an hour session via a Zoom call. You're extending that period of the engagement, which I think is really important, especially with virtual. We also have a feature where you can chat with other users. So in our networking folder at the bottom here, you can see we have a connect and chat option. We have a photo album. So that's just the photos that are uploaded in isolation. And of course, links to social. So if social is important to you, you can link them straight into your app. If I click into connect and chat, you can see everyone in here who has joined the guide. I can add friends in here or add contacts. And to do that, I click this plus button, and that means that they have to accept my friend request. So as you can see, it says the connect request has been sent. Before they do that, I can't chat to them. So it does protect users from just being talked to by anyone. The chat function is completely private as well. So Guidebook has no access to that. So if you are concerned about privacy, we outsource our chat function. So we don't have access to those. So it's completely one-to-one and private to your users. If I just pop over to my connections, I'm just going to show you that I can click into, for example, Mackenzie. I can see who she is, where she works, and the information that she's filled out there. And that is chosen by Mackenzie. So at the bottom, you can see she's not provided all her information because that's completely up to her. She doesn't have to share what she doesn't want to share. I'm just going to click chat with Mackenzie here. She sent me a message yesterday, so I'm just going to reply saying, hey, Mackenzie. in the chat, she beat me to it. So in the chat, I can send a location, I can send photos, so it works just like an iMessage, but it's completely isolated to the app. So it means that, you know, this is a way that your attendees can meet each other and chat, you know, hopefully share some information and ideas around your event. Just going to come back to the menu here. Another great option for you as organizers is to send out notifications. So these are push notifications. They go to the lock screen of the device, and then they're also saved into the notifications section. So I can come back to them later if I can't, you know, jump on them as the push comes in. You'll see an unread blue button if you haven't read something. So as you can see, we sent out some notifications about this event, and I can see them in my phone. Just to show you those on the back end. I'm sorry that I'm neglecting Builder. This is something that we can go through in more depth on a personal demo if you need to see it. But I am just going to compose a notification for you guys now. So these work just like a text message or an email. You can see your previously sent notifications, and you can create new ones. I'm just going to compose one now for you guys. And I'm going to schedule this to go out later. So this one will go to everyone who's downloaded the app and allowed notifications from the Guidebook app. So again, your attendees do have the controls to disable notifications or keep them open. I'm going to select push because I want it to go to the lock screen. I'm going to target all of my attendees rather than a group or attendees of a specific session. And I'm going to choose to schedule this out at another date. So instead of sending it right now, I'm going to send it today, and I'm going to send it, I guess this is my time, so I'm going to send it at 7 p.m. I can also, if I wanted to, link to a survey. So if I wanted to do a post-event survey, I could link that to this notification. So upon swiping the notification, you're linked straight to a post-event survey that you could fill out and provide that feedback to your conference organizer or event organizer. So as easy as that, I've just scheduled that notification, and that will come through to your device later, as long as you've allowed those notifications. Perfect. So because I mentioned surveys, I'll jump right onto those. So we have a couple of different ways that you can use surveys. They are right in the menu. So this one is in the menu, and you have a couple of different options here. So I'd urge you to go through and fill this out and feel how it works on your own device. But I can go through and just select some of these as I'm on the demo. So you can fill this out in your own time and submit those. All of those results will show in the back end, so you can analyze them, and you can even download them to analyze in a different way. There's also surveys that you can pick to go onto a specific session. So you can tie a survey to all of your sessions that just gives you feedback on a certain session. You can also link them to a list item. So there's lots of ways that you can harness surveys and collect easy to fill out information from your users. Because it's on mobile, it's easy to fill out, and it should be nice and quick. There's plenty of different question types. If you've got questions on what we have, please put them in the chat, or we can go into that in a bit more detail on a private demo. Cool. So the last thing I'm going to run through is metrics. So a very important thing to any software that you use, you want to know how it's performed. So in the metrics section, you can see 3 different types of data. One is your trends. So this is all about your guide and how it was used. So the amount of times it was downloaded, the amount of times it was opened, and for how long, even down to like average uses per day per user, and the cumulative time that it's open for. So you can click on each one of these and see your trends and how they perform. And again, you can export the information here and analyze it in a spreadsheet or however you'd like to. This is always open to you and never goes away, and it's live. So you can track the engagement that you're having with your users before your event. You can see how many downloads you get from an email blast. You can see how much they use it on the day. So plenty of data for you to use there. And factual evidence that you can give to your sponsor partners about how much engagement they had with their users. In the insights section, you can see things like the location. So you could see where your users are downloading the guide and where they are in the country or around the world. You can even see who's using it on iOS or Android. And then you can also break down your menu items. So you can see the most popular session, the most popular list item, for example. And you can also, down the bottom here, see the amount of, for example, the amount of times the banners were tapped on. And then in the engagement section, this is all about your networking and interact feed and things like that. So you can see how many times the interact feed was looked at. You can see how many times that you had posts on there, chat messages sent, and things like that. So plenty of data for you to analyze, again, which is live and always available to you. Perfect. So that concludes my demo. I know that I went through quite a lot and probably quite quickly, but again, if you have questions, please send them in. And if you'd like further information, please reach out. We're very up for doing more demos with you guys. I'm going to open up the Q&A section. So I'm going to welcome back Stuart Price and Mackenzie, and we're going to go through the questions that you guys have submitted. I'm going to act as question master. So I'm just going to go through to the Q&A slide. I'm going to act as a question master, and the guys are going to answer those questions. So Stuart and Mackenzie, are you back?
Hey, Jack.
Yep, I'm here.
Cool, perfect. So first question. So I've got these all in a doc now. So first question is going to Stuart, and the question is: as an event organizer for virtual conference, why should I focus on mobile devices? My virtual attendees will be at home, presumably with their laptops.
Great question. We started with a good one straight away, and this is a question that I have spoken about with lots of different types of people over the last few weeks. I think there's a few things that I would just hit head on here. And number one, mobile devices are people's most popular device in their home. The statistics show that people use their mobile device 58% more than they do their laptop or desktop computer. And even though people are home and they have super easy access to their laptop, their phone is still going to be right next to them. And I think that, as you probably during this event, I would be shocked if every single person on this webinar at some point hasn't looked at their phone. I would pretty much be willing to bet anything that all of you at some point have looked at your phone, and your phone is easily the biggest source of distraction during a live event, during a webinar, sorry, a virtual event. And so one thing that many of our clients are focusing on is how can they fight that distraction and how can they harness that popular device. And by using people's phones to engage them in the event, take part in live polls, take part in speaker Q&A, access documents, give feedback, you are essentially stopping them from looking at their emails, looking at news, looking at social media. So there's one real key there that is super important to harness mobile. And I think the other important point is native apps can give you really valuable data. You can understand what people are interested in, how engaged they are, how often, how many times are people opening the app during your event. Unfortunately, you can't really tell how engaged people are with a Zoom webinar. If they've got it running, there's no way of knowing if they're actually focusing or actually watching. Whereas how many things they're clicking on, how much time they're spending in the app is a tangible way that we can understand people's engagement with the virtual event. And the app is, of course, one spot where people can access information before, during, and after an event. And that's not just content, but it's the ability to network, the ability to give feedback and engage with the content as well.
Great, thank you, Stuart. So this one, the second question from Mackenzie, referring to optimizing content for smartphone viewing, what kind of percentage split do you typically see in usage?
Yeah, good question. So depending on how this question is meant to be answered, it sounds like we're looking at like smartphone versus web browser. And so referring back to some of the points Stuart made about using, mobile devices versus laptop and the percentage split there, I mean, it's evident that a lot of us are attached to our phones. And so I think in the last couple of years that I've at least managed clients, I would say it's probably a 90% split between people that use their phones versus desktop. And I think at this point, I would love to just kind of reiterate some of the points that Jack brought up with cover pages and how that's kind of a great segue to get some of your users who probably aren't accustomed to using a mobile device from using the desktop version. So cover pages gives you the ability to maybe highlight some of those key aspects that might be valuable on the phone, but it's also a great opportunity for them to visualize, maybe even open up a PowerPoint slide that you attach to an individual session. So while the web conferencing is taking place, they can go into the cover page, pull up the PowerPoint, and also interact on their mobile device at the same time.
Great, thanks, Mackenzie. And just sticking with you, would this app be useful in making an in-person event after social distancing ends, of course, available for people to participate virtually?
Yeah, great question. I would say in-person events has kind of been Guidebooks' bread and butter over the last 8 or 9 years. And so I think in the last couple of weeks that we've all been working here at Guidebook, we have seen more of this hybrid event-esque type setup. And so pairing Guidebook with these hybrid events, so half the people maybe being in person and then half being virtual, I think it's a great segue to get in front of your audience before, during, and after. So it is a great way for people to participate virtually, stay engaged and connected after the event, and raise questions so you guys can gather feedback after that. Those events take place. As with in person, it's kind of harder to measure and capture that audience after an event takes place.
Great, perfect. So Stuart, one for you here. If someone does not have an app, can they use all the same features from a web page or cover page?
So Guidebook has a feature which is called a cover page, and that is basically a desktop version of it's essentially like a microsite for the guide. It doesn't have all of the same features, but Guidebook is we're a mobile first product. We truly believe in the power of engaging people's most popular devices, and that's where we've invested a lot of our time over the years. However, to answer the question head on, we are enhancing our cover pages. We recently added new capabilities to those pages, so we now allow people to create personal schedules, to log into their account onto that page, and create a personal schedule, which can sync across their desktop and their mobile device. We also allow people to now add more information to those pages. So previously people could have sort of a certain limit of how many items could be on that page, and we've increased that fairly substantially. We are also right now working on a project to bring in better support for video. It's not Guidebook's intention to build an end-to-end virtual event platform, we actually don't believe that that's the right play. We believe that we should play to our strengths, but for a number of clients, they want to be able to show live video or video on demand, and we want to be able to support them with very popular tools such as YouTube Live and Vimeo, and potentially a couple more. But as I said, Guidebook strengths mobile. We really feel that embracing people's devices, to increase engagement, to fight distraction, as I mentioned earlier, is super important. And we think that networking is a key reason people attend events. And if they can't attend events, they still want to build out their network. They want to connect with the right people. They want to do that beforehand, during, and afterwards. And if you rely on everyone getting on their laptop or on their desktop at the same time, you're losing a lot of that kind of natural connectivity and social networking that can come through an app. And so, you know, mobiles everywhere, anywhere. Strength plays into that. And of course, when events move from virtual to hybrid and in person, you know, you'll still be able to encourage networking across anyone who is sat in front of a computer or live at an event, and also get engagement from them as well.
Cool, thanks, Stuart. Just to let you guys know, there are loads of questions. I'm going to do our best to go through all of them. And now I actually have your names, so I can mention your names on your questions. So the next one comes from James Mason. Will you enhance the web view you currently offer, which corresponds to our Guidebook app? I'm going to send that one to Mackenzie, if you could answer that for me, please.
Yeah, good question, James. And I know Stuart kind of touched on some of the points here, but I can go ahead and reiterate. So we do have cover pages, and if you are an older or existing Guidebook customer, you're probably familiar with our out-of-date web version. So cover pages at large has kind of replaced that. And so we are definitely always trying to iterate and increase the functionality of some of our core features, and cover pages is one of them. And so with the current state of the economy, like, we understand that people are needing to access content on their laptop and desktop, especially as we're all sitting at home, in addition to the mobile device. So just so everyone's aware, like, we are always actively updating cover pages to continue to meet the needs of our partners, especially with the industry shift. So be on the lookout for some of those updates. I think we actually just pushed out one last week. So if you are an existing client or new, I would definitely look at some of those new features that we pushed to cover pages at large.
Perfect. This one comes also from James Mason, and is a brilliant question. Is it Guidebook's intent to only tweak this existing platform, or will a much more robust platform be forthcoming that is focused on virtual events versus just getting by with the current platform? Stuart, I think you're probably best to answer this one.
Yeah, thanks, James. You know, and you know, from Guidebooks' perspective, we have a fantastic platform. We've spent the last 9.5 years building this and supporting clients to go mobile. You know, I think that the current offering, as I've talked about with the capabilities we have with web, and our strengths with mobile, is, you know, is a really strong play for virtual events, and we already have clients running virtual events as we speak, you know, and using our platform to complement that. Definitely, if you have any specific ideas or things that you think we need to add, we'd love to hear feedback always. And you know, we really enjoy getting product suggestions from our clients, our partners, and our prospects. You know, I think the thing that I would say is that we think virtual events is clearly very important right now, and is going to be more important in the future than you know, before COVID-19's impact on the world. But we strongly believe that hybrid events, you know, where some people will travel and some people won't, and in-person events, they are going to happen, and they are going to you know, people are still going to want to meet people. You know, they're going to want to network, they're going to want to engage directly with content. And you know, I think Guidebook's position is, we don't believe that it's the right move to put all of our eggs in one basket and try to be an all-in-one virtual events platform. There's lots of players out there who try to do everything, and they don't generally do everything really well. We think that what we have is the strongest mobile offering. We think it has a place within virtual, and you know, we're going to continue down the path to build partnerships with softwares that are complementary and you know, best in class, and ensure that we are the best in class mobile solution. And so that's our company's approach. And you know, I think in particular, the networking piece and the engagement piece is something that is relevant for virtual, hybrid, and in person, and sets us well to support clients today, but also in the future.
Great. This one comes from Lisa Larson. and it's one that I think is a really great question, especially at the moment. One of the main issues we run into with our in-person exhibit halls is that attendees are hesitant to stop and talk with our exhibitors. Going virtual, the interaction seems to be even more passive. Is there a way to make sponsorships even more interactive, more of a necessary forced interaction? I've got some thoughts on this, but Mackenzie, do you want to just kick us off with anything you have here?
Yeah, so I think a couple of things, and in the last week or so, I've had conversations with clients on how to get in front of sponsorship and drive that engagement a little bit more as we are pivoting to virtual. I think one of the things that we've come up with and tested a little bit is using our QR code scavenger hunt in a way that drives your users and attendees to scan codes during presentation. So if you have like maybe a set list of presenters in advance to the presentation, you would hand them this QR code that they would attach to their slide. And so your users, similar as you would in person, go up to a booth and scan that QR code and fill out a passphrase or an image or a saying to enter maybe a prize or some sort of thing at the end of it if they were to fill out the entire phrase. So that kind of forces engagement and drives viewers to kind of see what maybe your sponsors are showcasing. And I think it also kind of makes it fun and interactive and engaging in a way.
Yeah, thanks, Mackenzie. There's also other ways that you can group your attendees in terms of what you think that they're going to be interested in. So if you notice or you have different groups of people coming, you can select them into groups, send them targeted push notifications. You can maybe even create times where there are Zoom meetings that they can join voluntarily and speak to sponsors. You can also encourage your sponsors to use the chat feature. There will need to be encouragement coming from you as organizers and exhibitors for discussion. But I've been on both sides of events where I'm either an exhibitor or someone who's there, and there is always you don't want to speak to everyone, and no one wants a hard sell at an event. But hopefully this will break down some of those barriers and make it actually easier for easy conversation with exhibitors or sponsors about topics that add value to your users. There are lots of ways we can discuss this further. So I am going to move on from that question. But if you have an account manager or you're speaking to Guidebook, Lisa, please bring this up. We can go into some more depth there. Next question from Steve Lang. I've seen a lot of physical congresses that pivot to virtual have had to completely review their registration prices or go completely free. What's your experience of this? Stuart, what do you think here?
Yeah, I mean, we are definitely seeing that challenge with many of our clients. I think people don't fully know what they can charge people for tickets, what they can charge sponsors, and I'm not going to be arrogant enough to sort of think that I have the answers here. I think this is going to be a real case of trial and error. I think many people right now are basically seeing a pivot to virtual as something that they need to do and do at a much lower cost, which I understand. It makes sense. But long term, if this does continue, people are going to need content. They're going to want opportunities to network, and ultimately they're going to value that the same or in a similar way as they did before, as long as the content is engaging, as long as they feel they're getting the same out of it. They're building their network in the same way. And so personally, my personal opinion on this is I think everyone will pivot quite quickly to free events or very, very low cost. They'll demand less money from sponsors. If this continues, then they will realize that focusing on engagement, focusing on networking is the way to bring value to sponsors, to encourage people to buy tickets. And without any other sources of revenue, they'll realize that they have to just knock these events out of the park, be super organized and increase the value they put on them. And I don't know how the world is going to react and if they're going to be willing to pay in the same way. I think it's a huge question that we're all kind of watching closely.
Great, thanks, Stuart. So we have hit an hour. There are some other questions I do want to run through. So hopefully you guys can continue to stay on the webinar. We've got around 3 or 4 more questions that I'm going to go through. We've got plenty more that we got submitted, and what we'll do is we'll do our best to answer those in a follow-up with you guys, especially the ones around like features and how to do things, because we don't want to go too over time. So just to crack on with those 3 or 4 more questions, I've got one here from Alexander Stevens. How do you account for an international audience in terms of live polls and surveys with time differences in mind? Mackenzie, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, good question. So we work with loads of groups with international audiences and just different time zones in general. And I think this is a great opportunity to incorporate what we call scheduled tracks into the session and schedule model on the back end. So this gives you the ability to add multiple sessions that might be the same exact sessions, just with a different time zone. So you can incorporate those live polls and surveys that tie to that time zone or that different language that enable you to kind of have kind of an all-encompassed guide that taps into both time zones and or audiences.
Great, thanks, Mackenzie. I have an education question here, and I work in the EDU, so I'm going to answer this myself. We're in an academic conference with no sponsors. We'd like to hear how these types of events are addressed. So we have a team, as I said, dedicated to EDU. We did have an EDU virtual webinar last week. And if you want to hear more from our EDU team, please do get in touch. Education events are obviously slightly different to events with sponsors and things like that. And we'd love to hear from you. We work with lots of universities over the globe. We have lots of experience. So please do get in touch and we can go into some more information there. I'm actually going to end there. I don't want to run too over time. And as I said, we can follow up with these unanswered questions if you do have them that you've submitted. I hope that was informative for everyone. This is a tough time and we have to pivot quickly and be agile. Hopefully Guidebook is the solution that can allow you to do that. And as I've said throughout the whole thing, we can talk on a continued basis if you have more personal questions or personal desires to hear about special features or specific things about the platform. We're open to talk to you. We're all at home and it's nice to speak to people every day. So please do get in contact. We will follow up after this with the slides so you can have those. And this has all been recorded so you can share with other colleagues. And on the screen now, that's been there for a while, there is the sales@guidebook.com email address. Or if you have any feedback for us, please email our hello@guidebook.com email address. So thanks everyone. I hope you enjoyed our webinar and have a great day, evening, wherever you are in the world. Thanks a lot, guys.